What's up? Welcome in. Liberty football 2-0. 2-0 after a huge win over UAB.
Love it.
Joe Yock, Matt Warner here, Emily Austin off gallivanting around Europe. She seems like the type that would gallivant.
She's a gallivanter.
She's a gallivanter, yeah. So
she's having what they refer to in Virginia,
oh boy,
Central Virginia, as a big time.
Yes, big time out there.
Big time out in the world.
Best of luck to her. Is not joining us today for the
Best of luck to her.
Flame Central podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. We appreciate the
and more
sponsoring the show.
specifically within Alcova Mortgage,
Joe Yock Talk.
It's
yeah, there we go. All right, let's talk about this game, Joe, because remember, Liberty was a 6.5-point underdog coming into this one. And we're like, oh, man, rainy weather, getting nasty. You're like,
knew they were going to run the football.
Knew they were going to run the ball, and then even more so with the weather the way it was. There were some definite concerns going into this one.
Yeah.
But the Flames find a way to come away with the win. And I think thinking about it here this morning, I was like, to get that win, to be 2-0 even,
right,
with a third-string quarterback. How many programs around the country do you think, given that the quarterback issues that Liberty had with the injury to Charlie Brewer, throwing their third stringer out there would be sitting in the position the Flames find themselves in?
Yeah, I mean, I know you could tell throughout the week with Hugh Freeze. Hey, I got a package for Kaidon Salter. I got a package for Jonathan Bennett. I got a package for Nate Hampton, right? And so it's like, where I think in his mind he's staying up at 3 a.m. and going, where's this thing gonna go, right? And he went with Kaidon Salter the whole way. Yeah. And
those Hampton got those two.
That's right. That's right. And how weird was that?
That was odd. Yeah.
I mean, he came in. They tried to get him in shotgun and run a little. He's big, tall, but that must be strange. Pouring rain, stand holding a clipboard. Hey, get in there, kid. Let's try to win this game. Yeah. But did a good job with it. But Kaidon Salter, I thought you saw him really progressively improve as the game went on. There was. Especially late in the game when they finally decided to take some shots downfield. They tried a few times, but the one to Mario Douglas, which he got away with.
Little forearm, quick forearm push off. Yeah, I know you.
Just like that one, right?
Yep.
And he got away with that one, but that was a big play in the game, and you could see Kaidon Salter's confidence really start to improve. And I know you had said the press conference that I'm sure you can elaborate more on with Hugh Freeze, but. He had some times where the reads, he got scrambled too quick. But that's natural. Yeah. I mean, you're always going to go back to what you're most used to, what you're accustomed to. And so, but then there are other times where he did go 1, 2, nope, nothing's there, and he threw the ball.
You think about that throw to Noah
Frith.
That was a huge play.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good things for Kaidon Salter to build off of.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze, I was a little bit surprised at his press conference earlier today. He was very much down in the way that he talked about Kaidon Salter. Now, keep in mind, coaches, that's what they do, right? Even after games, I remember games where Malik Willis, threw for 5 touchdowns or whatever, and Freeze would be like, well, he missed 2 reads. It's like, okay. So that's what coaches do, and part of it probably to continue to motivate Salter that, listen, you got a big win, great. Guess what? That was good enough to beat UAB. Not going to be good enough to beat Wake Forest this week.
Correct.
So staying on it that way. But I'm with you, like, just in terms of the poise, yes, there were some times where you saw Salter, like, against Southern Miss, he got out and was able to turn the corner. You couldn't do that against UAB. And he kind of realized they were fast.
Oh, my goodness.
And he kind of realized that, I think, kind of through the first half. And it seemed like he started to settle in a little bit more in the second half. And the biggest thing we could say about him is he never made that big mistake. Now, Freeze blamed him for the fumble in the fourth quarter when Malik Caper came in. He said Salter kind of panicked and put it on the turf. And that ended up being, it was a big play at that point in the ball game. But in terms of throwing the football, he threw some away. He ducked out of bounds when nothing was there. He didn't kill them thring the football.
0 interceptions.
Yeah.
0 interceptions, which is and didn't fumble. He didn't fumble the ball either. So that is obviously a big part. But it's you feel good after a win like that. But like you said, a good coach who's coached really good quarterbacks, right? Yeah. He's going to be harder and harder for him because mentally, obviously, he's a freshman, right? Redshirt freshman. So he's got, he still has so much to learn. And I think what Hugh Freeze is saying to him right now is, listen, I'm going to challenge you, and you better get it right. You better get it right until he does get it right. Because you could think about this, because if he does figure it out, and he can sit in the pocket, and you feel confident when Kaidon Salter drops back to pass that he can go, he knows where his reads are, goes 1, 2, boom, and hits the guy in the flat or hits the guy with whatever his reads are, and then you throw that in with his athletic ability to escape from the pocket. That's when you get the Malik Willis dangerous type of football player.
Yeah, the interesting thing now, you feel like it's, okay, can his knowledge grow faster than defenses can kind of look at the tape and figure out what he's doing? You know what I mean? You're trying to stay ahead of the game a little bit.
100%, man. That's a really, really good point. And the point is, you're saying is, the more tape defenses get on a quarterback, a young quarterback they've never seen before, right? The more they're going to figure out how to defend him. And so that's why you see a lot of these young guys will go out and have, oh, this guy is amazing. He's had these great games. Well, then third game, fourth game, it's like, oh, if you don't increase, what you're saying is, if you don't increase your skill set as the defense gets more tape on you, then you become one-dimensional and you will be defended. Especially you got, Wake Forest, Arkansas, BYU, Virginia Tech. He's got, and that's why another reason why Coach Freeze is being so difficult on him.
All right, let's talk about this Liberty defense. Because I got to be honest, early on, we're going, oh no. Like the way UAB was running the football. But then you saw Liberty get better and better. I'm going to throw these stats out.
Throw it out.
All right.
Fire them away.
First quarter, UAB ran it 10 times for 161 yards, and we're like, oh man, this is not good.
Night.
Second quarter, 14 carries, 67 yards.
200 plus.
Third quarter, 11 carries, 20 yards. Fourth quarter, 8 carries, -7 yards. Obviously, the sacks played a role in that number. But you just saw the defense, as the game went along, began to assert itself. That depth certainly was a factor there. But also, it's just this defense, it's like you kind of settle in. There's a lot of veterans. Nobody's panicking. And listen to Josh Aldridge talk about it a little bit. He's like, there weren't a lot of huge adjustments. It was more so like, okay, we got a feel for it now. We started to tackle a little bit better, which has been kind of an issue in the first two games. And you just saw them start to wear down that offensive line, especially for UAB as we got into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, 100%. And I went back and watched some of it again. Just you're seeing it live, like, wow, this is pretty good with the turnovers. But when you go back and watch it, what Liberty did from the secondary, especially on the defensive line and the linebacker position, is they played angry. There was like those there. You start getting on the running backs about fumbles and the turnovers. When you go look at those turnovers, like it's hard to blame the running back.
Right.
Like these were punch and rips. That the one that Rocket Rahimi came up there and filled the hole on the 3-yard line. I mean, he came up there angry. And Kendi Charles at the end of the game was playing. I mean, he might know how to sew, but he can sew angrily too. Because this guy could play football. He played angry, and so that was what I was most impressed. It was the hits, and when the turnovers happened, they were punching, they were ripping. These were hard hits. These weren't just random giveaways. And like you said, we talked about it during the broadcast. Was you really started to feel as the game went on that Liberty was starting to impose its will. And a lot of that was they were fresher because they had more depth.
Well, I'm more encouraged by that than I am even the turnovers. Because, and I was just looking right now, only one team that's played 2 games this season in college football has more turnovers than Liberty. That's Western Kentucky. They have 10. Liberty's forced 9 turnovers through 2 games. But as we talked about, that can be a little bit fluky. Right? Like you knock the ball out, it bounces left. They recover it, bounces right. Liberty recovers it. Liberty has caused 6 fumbles. They've recovered every single one of them. So it's not going to it's not going to continue that way.
That's right.
But the one thing that is not a fluke and that is not random is the approach. Is the approach of trying on every play to get the ball out. And Javon Scruggs after the game was like, that's become now second nature for us. He's like, it's even to the point where in practice, other players are going up to guys and be like, hey, on that drill, you didn't go for the football like you should have. He's like, we're holding each other accountable. So you're not going to recover every fumble, but it's that approach and always trying to create that turnover that's maybe more impressive than the 6 for 6 on fumble recoveries.
It's clear. Like you can see like the punch, especially the first one. Was it Kendi Charles? You know the first one? I think it
Kendi,
was.
also, I think we got Ahmad Walker was in there.
Ahmad Walker may have won it, but it was like that was intentional. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to tackle the dude and I just sort of happened to get my arm there, or he let the ball loose.
Right.
And
it's not just the ball squirts out.
This was a wrap, and I mean he punched to the ball, which is like you said, that takes a lot of hard work and is very intentional. To make one more point on the defensive side of things is, I really thought the play of the game, well, not necessarily play, the series of the game was in the fourth quarter when they called the timeout.
Oh, yeah, right.
And they decided they threw the timeout. It was like, geez, you burned a timeout right here.
They were going to go for it, and then they changed their mind last minute, and then they were too late in the play clock. They had to burn the timeout.
So they burned the timeout. So after you burn the timeout, it's almost like, well, we can't burn the timeout and punt it.
Yeah.
So we're going to burn the timeout and go for it. And they went for it and got it.
Yeah.
And at that point, you thought, oh, if they go down here and score, we got ourselves a game. And it couldn't have turned out any worse for UAB, because not only did they, after they got it, they ended up having the clock ran down.
They
and
burned
they ended
like
up in
2.5 or 3
minutes, and they
bent
bent it, and they ended up in like a 4th and 20.
Yeah.
And had to punt.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's when Liberty's defense really stepped in the meat grinder right there and said, okay, enough's enough, after they got that first down and drove them back and made them punt. I thought that changed the entire complexity of the game.
Another key series that we talked about a lot during the broadcast was 11 and a half minutes to go in the third quarter. It was a 7-7 game at that point. UAB had it. It would have been a 24-yard field goal. Chip shot.
Yeah.
Points were tough to come by at that point. They decided to go for it on 4th and 4. They don't get it. The Liberty defense gets a stop. And that's one of those spots where at the time we were like, boy, do you not just take the lead?
Right.
And you always wonder kind of like, how does that change the complexion of the game? Would it have? Who knows? But another time where this Liberty defense, maybe they gave up some yards, but they just kind of had a knack. We saw it against Southern Miss as well.
Yeah.
Teams in the red zone, and Liberty finds a way to come up big when they needed to.
Yeah, I mean, the Rock Rahimi, the knockout on the 3-yard line, and then that one. And it's funny, and I shared with you before we started, I went back and I listened to the UAB post-game podcast.
Okay.
And so it was like to get their perspective on it. And that was one of the first things they brought up.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, we like the play call on the 4th down, but man, that's a risky call, especially in the rain. Like, points are by a premium right there. And to not take those 3 points, you know, I really felt, I bet they're kicking themselves thinking, man, we should have kicked the field goal right there.
Yeah. Anything else that jumped out to you in that game that you want to hit? The interior of that defensive line was just Dennis Asagade, newcomers, great. Kenny Charles. Kenny Charles looks like he's gone. We saw last year, there are flashes where you're like, okay, this kid's, he's looking like he's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
He has been just an absolute monster.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Kenny Charles played, but I'll tell you, one of the things that really stood out to me is, as the game progressed, how hard Day Hunter ran the football.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a big kid.
Yeah.
But, you know, they had Skull Brown on their side, so it was almost like, hey, watch this dude run like this. Watch me run. That's what it turned into. And Day Hunter really, he was patient. He's able to bounce the ball to the outside, and then he got north and south and squared his shoulders up, and he finished his run. So I was really impressed with him, and Cheddar Lewis also. Yeah. Both those guys did a really good job.
Yeah.
How many yards did
Hunter ended up with 68 yards on 10 carries, so 6.4 a pop. Shadrill wasn't as effective, only 3.5 yards a carry, but they also got him involved in the pass game. He had 3 catches for 36 yards, and that's something I would imagine you'll see them try to continue with Kaidon Salter. We talk about trying to give him some easy throws to just get some confidence, and the running backs thrown to them is one way to do it.
Yeah, no doubt. Kaidon Salter will definitely improve, throughout the season, I think, and like I said, mentally, as he's able to grasp more and gets a feel and gets more reps, that's definitely going to help him. One of the other things that they talked about, I'm not a big coach critique guy, right? Because these coaches are putting game plans together, spending hours, right? They know a heck of a lot more than I do, right? But one of the things that really surprised me from a UAB standpoint offensively was they were running the ball so well in the first and second quarters that it was forcing Liberty's inside linebackers and Javon Scruggs to come down to the box and become very involved in the run. And they were committing to it right away. I was very surprised that they did not put more play action pass on them over the middle. Yeah. They hit the one play action pass early to Trey Shropshire. And they went for 60-some yards. But they never came back to that. And the linebackers and the safeties were so committed to stopping the run that I really felt as if they could have taken advantage big time with the tight ends, especially in the play action pass. And they just didn't do it, which really shocked me.
They really didn't. And the tight ends didn't even have a reception in this game.
Yeah. Or even if you you get Shropshire, you put him in a slot, put him down in a tight formation, give him a little fake block, and then slip him out. Then slip him out over the middle, because those linebackers were coming fast.
You look at Dylan Hopkins, their quarterback, during his time as a starter now, a year and a half or whatever it's been. Liberty has been the one team that's given him problems. Gave him problems last year at their place, only 10 of 15 for 114 yards. And really, by the time they got to the point where they needed to throw, Well, by then the defensive line had just absolutely taken over, and he had no time to sit in the pocket.
Right. Yeah. It just I wonder if they're maybe getting caught up in a game if they're kicking themselves a little bit because they had that explosive play.
Yeah.
The play action, boom, hit Shropshire over the middle. He goes down. They ended up scoring. I think the Liberty ended up getting a stop there. But you got to go back to that. And what else it does, it helps your running game.
Sure.
Because now it's going to slow down. Like you get if you're a linebacker and you go flying up in there and they throw it over your head. Exactly, it keeps you honest. You're gonna have to stick back and allows them to run the football better. So that just surprised me a lot.
All right, one concern that I took out of this game, and you can tell me if there's any others that you saw for Liberty, and that was it's one of those things where you don't think about it as much after a win, but the kicking game, second game in a row now, had a missed field goal. This one from 37 yards out. Nick Brown missed it in the first quarter, and that's something where you're celebrating the win, you don't really think about it. But those things could be huge and critical in a game down the line. And so that's something that Liberty has to kind of figure out.
Yeah, I like from a special teams perspective, I like the punt return that DeMario Douglas had. He had a real nice punt return there. But, yeah, the kicking game is huge because what happens is as you start coming down the road here, we've said it 1,000 times, with the Arkansas, BYU, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, obviously next one up on the list, is that your margin of error starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And in order to beat teams like that, you have to play great in all three phases of the game, and special teams is a big part of that. So a kicking game has got to improve. That could be a difference maker in one of these games.
And there's nothing that just takes the wind out of your sails more on the road in a tough environment than coming up empty on a drive where you could have put points on the board. Even if it's a field goal instead of a touchdown, you miss a makeable field goal, and that just kills the momentum or just the feeling for a team playing on the road.
And on the other side of that, too, is also not just field goals, obviously, but you have to make a game. If you're going to beat those teams, you have to make a game-changing play in special teams, whether that's a block punt, you block a field goal, whatever that may be, a kickoff return. I mean, Shedro Lewis, DeMario Douglas, these are explosive football players that can take it to the distance at any time. So taking advantage of those guys in the return game is going to be extremely important.
All right, you talk about being a playmaker. Joe Yock and Alcova Mortgage. You talk about a playmaker, Joe. Tell people what they get when they come see Joe Yock. You talk about, like, listen, I'm looking to buy a house. They need a home lender. They want somebody in the area, maybe if you're in the Lynchburg area or outside of Lynchburg as well. We're not going to hold you just around town. No. What do people get? What's the advantage of talking to you instead of somebody else?
Well, I mean, no doubt whatsoever that you're not going to Walmart to buy a vacuum cleaner. We've said that more than once. Okay, so this is the opportunity to either cost you a lot of money, right? This one decision will either cost you a lot of money or potentially could save you a lot of money. There is a lot of different products that are out there available in the mortgage industry. It's not just, hey, take this and off you go. There's so many different products available. And what we do is we sit down, we let you know exactly what your options are, okay, and then what option best fits you. We customize it for you, Warner. What do you want?
You're not talking to some guy who knows where sitting in a call center. You're looking across the table, staring in those eyes, talking to a real human being.
Right there, yes. Yeah, one-on-one, we sit down and talk, and we discuss and what is the right way to do this. And it's one of the biggest decisions you ever make in your life in purchasing a home. And make sure that you do it correctly, and we do it right at Alcova Mortgage. Best team in the business.
And I can tell you that is actual fact as a satisfied customer. Thank you, Joe. And of course, Flame Central Podcast powered by
Alcova
Mortgage. We thank them for that. All right, let's turn the page now. Liberty going to Wake Forest this week. 5 p.m. kick on the road. I believe it's on the ACC network. Wake Forest opened yesterday as a 15-point favorite.
Wow.
I was seeing 16, even 16 and a half today.
That's a lot of points.
That is a lot, but if you're Wake Forest, you get your stud quarterback. Sam Hartman comes back. Remember, he had the kind of undisclosed injury before the season, was out week 1. They clear him. He comes back on the road at Vanderbilt, throws for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Listen, he's one of the best college quarterbacks there is in the country. He's rewriting their record book there at Wake Forest. What kind of challenges? Because this Liberty defense has been good. They have not been challenged in the passing game like they will be on Saturday. Obviously, there wasn't a quarterback for the second half of the Southern Miss game.
Right.
UAB, they were trying to run the ball. This will be a different kind of test for them this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this one out.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Hartman is an elite college quarterback. And not only is he elite, he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback. I mean, they can play, and they have the weapons around them. I haven't looked closely at Wake. I just sort of
the
highlights.
Receivers.
They got really good receivers. Obviously being played in the ACC championship last year. against Pitt, and having Sam Hartman, it's going to be tough. 50.5 points seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But I will say this. The depth on Liberty's defensive line, the improvement of speed at the linebacker position, especially with Mike Smith.
Yeah.
And I think both of Liberty's corners, the secondary is good. I mean, you're not just talking about Chris Megan.
So you were saying after the game, we were just talking, you're like, they're just good at every level.
They're good
There's
at
not
every
a glaring
level.
weakness anymore on this team.
But I think you bring up a really good point, is they have, it's not like within the first 2 games that, wow, we've really got to hone our secondary. We've had the opportunity to get a lot of passing plays on tape and coach them up. Just haven't had that. The Southern Miss game was heavy. Frank Gore was heavy run. Obviously, they went into basically a power package, and then UAB wanted to run the ball. So this Liberty secondary, they're going to face this as their first real task.
Josh Aldridge, Liberty co-defensive coordinator, says Hartman's the best quarterback they've faced in the 4 years that Freeze and the staff has been here.
That's a fair statement.
The other thing to watch that's really unique about them, they have this slow mesh on their RPO. Have you seen this?
Where it's like very well aware.
Quarterback and running back are basically just slowly walking, and it seems like it takes forever to develop.
It's incredible.
But as a defense, you're kind of in limbo for a lot longer than typically you would be.
I mean, it's obviously I follow Carolina football very closely, so they play Wake Forest every year. So. I've been watching this slow mesh for years. As a fan, it drives you insane.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because you're looking at it and you see the ball and it's so slow. They're just, the quarterback and running back are just and everybody's just, it's almost like everybody's just.
For a lot of people that haven't seen it, the first time they see this on Saturday, they're going to be like, what is that?
Yeah.
And Hugh Freeze actually said today in his press conference, he's like, I'm kind of jealous. He's like, I feel like I should study this more.
Yeah.
This might be something that I want to try to mess with at some point.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we haven't seen it more from other teams, because what it does, basically what they're doing from an analyst standpoint, is they're saying, okay, are we going to hand it off?
Yeah.
Okay, so now your linebackers have to commit. So once they feel as if, okay, I'm going to put it right there in your stomach, and if those linebackers commit, now they come, guess what? I'm going to pull it out, and we're going to throw it right over top of you. So that it makes the linebacker say, okay, what have you actually done? Have you actually, okay, now you handed it off. Now I'm going to commit once I see the ball in your hands. However, you don't see any pressure. That's what gets you. You're just like, as a fan, you're looking at like, go tackle him. Go tackle him. Well, I wish it was that simple, right? So if they hand it off, okay, linebacker stay back, quarterback reads it, takes it, hands it off, they pick up 4 or 5 yards, they squirt one out on you, right? Now, he puts it in there, linebackers decide to commit right away, he pulls it back out, and now they're taking shots over the top. So it is very effective what they do. It drives you crazy as a fan to watch, but it's effective.
So the key then for Liberty defensively, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, the key is it's all timing.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta get a really good feel, and I think what you're going to see Liberty do also is sometimes if I think Liberty's confident enough that they can play some man-to-man. Like, the receivers are good, but I think Liberty's confident they can play man-to-man. If you do that, then you can commit a backer more right away. It's when you get into the zones and the backers start coming right now and they're supposed to be in a zone coverage and you leave this wide open part of the field. And Wake Forest is also good too, because they also know this. Well, our receivers are pretty good too. And so if we force you to play man-to-man, they feel confident with a quarterback like Sam Hartman that they can beat you. So it's tough. It's a good offense.
Wake Forest ranked 18th in the coaches poll, 19th in the AP. So a really good program that has been on the rise the last couple of years.
Here we go.
A huge test for Liberty here in the early going with a young quarterback going into a very hostile environment. This is going to be a lot different environment than it was down in Hattiesburg a couple of weeks ago for Kaidon Salter.
Who did Wake opened up against VMI?
Right.
Is that right?
Yep.
And so they handled that. They handled that pretty good. And then Wake Forest played.
They won at Vanderbilt.
They're at Vanderbilt.
Pretty handily.
Pretty handily at Vanderbilt. Yeah, this is going to be. Well, I'll tell you right now. Obviously, this is going to be the best team that Wake Forest has played so far this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Kaidon Salter, the running game, the depth on the defense. Wake's going to score.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to make plays and they're going to score. But can you get potentially in a shootout with them and have a chance to win the football game? Sure. I mean, there's enough explosive players on Liberty's offense across the board to hang with Wake Forest, no doubt.
Going to be fun. 5 o'clock kickoff. All right, let's get to this. Before we go, we have to do the Flames Fantasy League. We got to give you the update on that. All right, so here's what we had. We had Joe's leading the way after week 1. That is no longer the case. I feel a lot better doing this because Emily's not here.
Good.
So she's leading now. But were she here, I would probably have just skipped over this and we wouldn't have even talked about it.
She's
leading now. She had a big week. Day Hunter Darrell Johnson had a great performance. In fact,
Johnson.
Hugh Freeze said that may be the best game he's played in a Liberty uniform. Yeah, so really impressed with him. Trayshawn Clark as well. So she scored about 40 points.
No way.
She has 76 on the year. Yep. And then, Joe, you had 18 points.
What?
Your leading score was Javon Scruggs with 8. It wasn't as big of a game for Demario Douglas in the past.
It wasn't.
So that
do I get punt return points?
You do not. So that kind of hurt you there.
I'm objecting to this.
You're gonna protest. And then I scored 35, so I moved in.
35.
You have 58 total points. I have 66 now. Big week from Shadro Lewis, got into the end zone. Also, Ahmad Walker had a good week as well. Fumble, I think recovery and forced. So doing fine there. But one last thing as we kind of talk about that, and you kind of see our list of guys that we have on our rosters here. A lot of those explosive players that we talk about really haven't had a chance to be that explosive yet because of what Liberty's figuring out at the quarterback position. I think specifically about a Caleb Snead, who we expect big things to happen for him at some point this year. But new quarterback, trying to figure it out, a lot coming at him. They just haven't been able to get it in the hands of as many of those playmakers as they probably like to.
Yeah, I think once again, it's going to come down to improving Kaidon Salter in the pocket and being able to make those throws, because that's a really good point. When you're a little bit, like going into that game, you're unsettled at the quarterback position. So if you can be settled at the quarterback position, then you'll start seeing there's so many weapons. I mean, Noah Frith, C.J. Yarborough, Demario Douglas, Caleb Snead.
It sounds like C.J. Daniels could be close to returning here in the next couple of weeks, potentially.
It's all right there for you.
T.J. Green should be back. It's another injury update. T.J. Green has a chance to be back on Saturday, so you get a little extra depth there at the running back position as well.
You know what I'd like to see some Liberty offensively is get involved more in the quarterback draw and the screen game. Shedro Lewis is so good with the ball in his hands, and you really just haven't seen that. They may be holding that in their pocket here, so that might be something to look for in this Wake Forest game as you start getting a lot of pressure. Shedro Lewis, quarterback draws, that kind of stuff opens some things up.
All right, last thing, make our bold predictions for the week. Let's go back to last week. I predicted Kaidon Salter would have a 50-yard run. He had a 35-yard run. It
was a nice run.
So it was a nice run. So, it's fine. Joey had 2 touchdowns for Demario. Didn't happen. Yeah. And then Emily had Darrell Johnson with 3.
A lot of rain.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, that's right. It's not his fault. Darrell Johnson, Emily said he would get 3 sacks. He got 1 and 3 tackles for loss. Again, if she was here, she would probably try to claim that as a victory, but we know that's not accurate. All right, do you have a bold prediction for this week? What do you have?
My bold prediction for this week is going to be the guy that I really like. The guy that I really like is Mike Smith.
Yeah.
I think that he is a big-time middle linebacker, be able to get him out of JUCO and bring him here to Liberty. So I'm going to predict that Mike Smith gets an interception.
Okay.
He's going to pick off Sam Hartman, and he's going to get 2 sacks.
Wow.
Interception, 2 sacks. See, at least my predictions are bold. Sometimes you and Emily, you're a little dicey on how bold.
You're not going to like this one either.
Give me bold.
I'm going to go. Okay, I'll go a little bolder. I was going to say, I think C.J. Yarborough's due for a breakout game. Okay. And a big-bodied receiver in a game like this. He's played well against Power 5 foes before. Touchdown against Virginia Tech. A couple big catches there. Yeah. I was going to say 75 and a touchdown. I'll go 100 yards and a touchdown.
100 yards and a touchdown.
That's bold.
That's a good. If you go 100 yards and a touchdown versus Wake Forest, 100 plus and a touchdown, that's solid.
Yeah, that's pretty bold. All right, we'll go with that, and we'll check on these and keep we're kind of over right now, aren't we? I mean, I don't know. If
I think I dominated.
Or maybe we hit one on the first. I don't know.
First 2
All right. Anything else you want to hit as we get rolling into week 3?
Let's see.
Listen, those 2 wins. We talk about getting bowl eligible, and Hugh Freeze talks about that a lot. Yeah. You are set up now by winning those 2 games off the top. It's all right there for you. It's all right there.
Question for you, Matt Warner.
Yeah.
Question for you. Out of the Big 4, let's address the elephant in the room.
Sure.
Okay. There's the Big 4.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, Arkansas, BYU, Virginia Tech. Yeah. Out of the Big 4 that Liberty has on the schedule right now, where does this one rank? Winnability-wise and importance-wise, where do you feel as if this one ranks in those games?
I think this is the second most difficult.
The second most difficult.
At Arkansas will be the most difficult.
Wait, you're calling the Wake BYU game? BYU just beat.
I realize that, but you get them here. You get them here.
That's true.
But at Arkansas, when they start calling those hogs, and it's just sickening. It's disgusting. And it's going to be, that's a different deal. So I think second most difficult. I think the Virginia Tech game is very much in play based off what I've seen so far. Now we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
Teams will improve. Whatever.
From level of importance to the program, where would you put it at? Because
I think level importance of the program.
Yeah.
I think Virginia Tech's number one.
Yeah,
because it starts at home, right? You got to take care of
one
business
Virginia
here.
Tech. Then what would you say two is?
I think Arkansas. You win an SEC. You beat them. You've beaten some ACC teams before. You've done that. But if you go on the road and win in an SEC place, like that's different than winning at Syracuse or at Baylor or whatever. Like that's different.
Yeah, I wonder how important Coach Freeze feels of Wake Forest from a geography standpoint.
Yeah.
And obviously Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, and then Wake Forest only Winston-Salem's a couple hours away.
Right.
Do you face them in recruiting?
Yeah.
Can you go into these high schools?
Listen, none of them would hurt to win. You know what I mean? They all
win. But I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I agree.
Yeah, it's going to be fun though. It's a good early season test.
Yeah.
I know. Freeze said, "Well, I wish we had a couple more weeks to get Salter ready for this one." You don't. But it's going to be a good test, a kind of measuring stick game to see, all right, where are we early on?
Say what you want.
Yeah.
Say what you want. Kaidon Salter is athletic enough and has enough football savvy in him, I really believe this, to keep you in the game.
Yeah.
Whether, I get coaches, they X's and O's, they sit around, they sleep in their offices, they do that whole, dog and pony show with all the X's and O's and all over the place. Sometimes, and don't get me wrong, Coach Freeze is a pretty smart guy. He knows what he's doing. So he will play to his athletic ability, yet hone him up. And I think Kaidon Salter is an athletic enough guy and can make enough plays to keep you in the ball game.
Joe? Nice job by you.
It's always fun, man.
Nice job by you.
He's America's broadcaster.
She can stay in Europe for a month if she wants to. I don't know.
No,
we want her back. We want her back.
Hurry up back.
This has been the Flame Central podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage. See you next week.